The felon goes to the Middle East. Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for your liking the videos, watching the videos, sharing the videos, watching them all the way to the end, hyping the videos. These all help the channel grow. So huge thank you for all of that. And if you've donated money to the channel through the super thanks, buy me a coffee or Venmo, a huge thank you. It's all greatly appreciated. So, a few things I want to look into today. Blowback from the felon not winning the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, in a normal world, there would be no blowback because the person would understand that they do not deserve a Nobel Peace Prize. But this is not a normal world, so we'll look into that. I also want to look into his visit to the Middle East. Uh, it's been reported that he's going on Sunday. There's some ambiguity on whether the date's actually right, but to sign this ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, and uh, Palestinians are now heading back to Gaza, which is good, and hopefully that holds. I will read on that at a further date. I want to kind of feel the energies for a bit. I think we should look at the government shutdown too, just to kind of see how much longer it's going to last. Um, and then, the not swearing in of the congresswoman, newly elected congresswoman from Arizona. Um, when she's sworn in, does this mean the Epstein documents are going to come out? And why is Mike Johnson protecting him from the Epstein documents? Something's weird there. I mean, either Mike Johnson knows what's in them or somebody knows something about Mike Johnson, right? Because theoretically, he wouldn't know what's in them. The rest of Congress doesn't. So, and then I want to look at uh, um, the Supreme Court and the tariffs, and look again to see if we can't see how they might rule on their constitutionality, because the felon announced today that there are more tariffs that he's going to put in place on China, on rare earth minerals, which really, I guess he thinks he's going to promote mining in the US for things that, nobody wants done here. So, um, who knows what he's thinking, but, uh, all right, let's take a look about the government shutdown first. I have a feeling this is gonna probably stretch for a little bit longer, but I think we're gonna start hearing some productive conversations. I think the person holding this up is the felon. I think there's enough Republicans willing to vote with Democrats to keep the government open and not cut Medicaid and subsidies for the exchanges. But I don't think the felon would sign it. So let's look at the government shutdown. There's a lot of volatility here with the moon card. So, it might seem like they're close one day and then they're not the next. I don't think they can even keep track of what they're arguing about. It's probably not worth following the hour-to-hour debates because I think it's just chaotic. I don't think that this is going to be, I think it'll be just announced there's a deal eventually. And that deal will pass. Uh, the Republicans are very delusional if they think that they're winning this argument. I think that people have already passed their judgment on this situation, and people want health care. They don't want just healthcare for themselves. They want healthcare for everybody. That's just the nature of being a decent human being, is wanting everybody to be able to take care of themselves. Um, Republicans are going to try some sneaky tricks here. They might also be, if the Seven of Swords at the center, it could be about deceit, deception, dishonesty, but also could be about them acting behind the felon's back and really not negotiating with him, but just negotiating with Democrats. We get bombshells and surprises. I think this is that the Democrats, they probably don't get everything that they want, but they get a good amount of what they want. The Six of Swords heading out of the trouble. And, there's a lot of anxiety, especially amongst federal workers, being furloughed and going without pay, the TSA, flights being delayed. None of it's good. All of it's a bad look for Republicans. So, yeah. And here's the emperor, the abuse of power. So it's a volatile situation, but I really do think they're going to go behind the back of the president or the felon, and do a deal with the Democrats and present it to him, and then it'll be known because the Democrats will make it known if he doesn't agree to a deal that was agreed to by everybody else. I do see us moving out of this chaos, but it's at the expense of the Republicans and their fantasy of thinking that this is a good idea, that this is what people want. Um, there's a lot of anxiety out there. Uh, it's hard to keep up with the news and knowing what's going on. People have already passed their judgment and expect there to be a twist here, a surprise with the Page of Cups. So I think this is most likely the Democrats getting at least some of the things that they want. Yeah, it's a more balanced deal. If one plan doesn't work, try another, the Eight of Pentacles, and then a message coming forward. The only problem is that, the felon can't really lose. He has to seem like he's winning. So, because he's so thin-skinned. Okay, so the government shutdown, I definitely don't think it will go more than another 10 days, but it could. Okay, what about the Supreme Court and these tariffs? You've done this before. I think the Supreme Court's going to rule against him. But I think they're going to try to do it in a way that lessens the blow to the economy, in the sense of, the money's already been spent with the tax cuts that they passed, right? So I'm not sure exactly how the economy reacts if the tariffs go away. On one hand, prices probably don't really go down because profit margins will go up, and that's probably where they'll stay. But at the same time, the deficit is growing quite rapidly. The national debt in particular is growing quite rapidly whenever Republicans in charge. So Supreme Court's tariffs. Just don't think that they're going to give him unilateral power. And you might say, well, they've done that in the past. And that's partly true, but most of the stuff that they've given him unilateral power for is stuff that's housed in the executive branch, right? He's in the executive branch. The purse strings are not housed in the executive branch, or they're not supposed to be. So I think there'll be a lot of thought about this, the Six of Cups here, how this is affecting the next generation. I get the King of Cups, that's my card for the Democrats. I think the liberal justices will be quite persuasive here. And we get wish fulfillment, the Nine of Cups. So I expect there to be a lot of emotion at this particular oral argument when it comes about. I just think there's so many good arguments against him being able to do this and not many arguments for him to be able to do this. Now, you know, if it was wartime or something along those lines, then perhaps. We get the Four of Cups, apathy, you know, it's um people don't want this stuff. They just don't. I mean, we don't want new tariffs coming out of the blue, you know, and the stock market loses 2%, right? I mean, it's just crazy. We all know his friends are making money off of these things. We get justice at the center, and I think they'll take a balanced approach. I don't think the ruling will be everything Democrats want, but I don't think it'll be anywhere near what Republicans want. I think it'll be sort of like, okay, the tariffs have to be rolled back and Congress has to pass a law to do it. And if they don't by a certain time period, then the tariffs will just be gone. It'll be something along those lines. And the Seven of Cups, lots of cups today in this reading. Illusion and delusion, just not really understanding how things work. And we get the Empress card, nurturing the economy, understanding that, you know, economies aren't meant to take big jolts. They just aren't. The tariffs were the first big jolt. Getting rid of them would also be a big jolt. Now, in the long run, I think it'd probably be better, but I don't know that that means prices come down. So, you know, it's one of those things. Here's the felon in his own reading, the King of Pentacles, and then we get the Knight of Cups. Again, emotional messages coming forward. Lots of emotions here. I mean, six out of the nine cards are cups. So thinking about the next generation and what justice means for them and sending a very clear message for what the president and is not allowed to do to the economy. It feels like it'll be a reasonable ruling. It won't be perfect, that's for sure, but it'll be reasonable. It'll mostly take away his power to just unilaterally impose tariffs. And this will create a lot of stability in the economy because we won't have to be worried about the next big announcement. Democrats will herald it as a victory against the felon. Most Americans are going to go, you know, don't like the whole thing to begin with, and they're going to be skeptical of anything coming out of the Supreme Court. So it'll be an interesting read, that's for sure. We get guardrails with the Nine of Pentacles, putting up guardrails against him. Things working behind the scenes here with the High Priestess and the Magician card. And then we get victory. So, and victory, by the way, with the Two of Pentacles, which is literally about overseas travel and money. So kind of tariff oriented. So I think the Supreme Court is going to rule in a reasonable way here. Okay, the Congresswoman from Arizona not being sworn in. This definitely feels like an Epstein distraction, but I do want to know, I don't think I mentioned this in the opening. I want to know if the Epstein files are actually going to come out. And then we'll move to what Mike Johnson is doing about that. So, or why he's holding up swearing her in. Will the Epstein documents come out when she gets sworn in? Yeah, it's a new beginning, fool. And loss for who? For the felon. Discernment. They're not going to be easy to read, so it's not going to be that salacious to where it says this person did this. It's not going to be that easy. They're going to take some real diving into them to understand them. I think they do move forward. I think the DOJ tries to prevent it even when Congress passes it. The Seven of Swords at the center, deceit and deception. We have bombshells and surprises as well. Expect there to be things in there that you weren't expecting there to be. Illusion and delusion with the Seven of Pentacles. Apathy. I think this is the main thing that Republicans have going for them is that the public could grow tired of this story. I don't think they will, but they could. And then we get wish fulfillment. So yeah, I think they come out. I think it's a new beginning. I think the deceit and the deception doesn't work. And the public's wish comes true, and we get all the Epstein documents that were, there'll be redactions, of course. I think Johnson's deluded and that his deceit isn't going to work, and people will be quite discerning about it and put the blame appropriately where it is. I do think some people will be quite apathetic and won't believe anything anyhow. But I do think this is progress for the country. I do think there's some things in it that are surprising. And I do think it is a loss for the felon. So I do think this doesn't go exactly the way he wants. They certainly have a lot of anxiety about it. They know it's not a good look for them, the 9 and 8 of swords, respectively. So, okay. So what is Mike Johnson's, what's the point here? Why is Mike Johnson holding this switch decks here? I mean, has he seen them? I wouldn't think so. Does he know what's in them? I mean, only if somebody told him. Is he being threatened? What's Mike Johnson's role in this? Why is he not swearing in the congresswoman from Arizona? Refusing to bring back the House and put them in session. I mean, there's always been rumors swirling around about his sexual escapades. For entertainment purposes only. It's tarot reading. I could be right, I could be wrong. Um, I think they're probably more deviant than we think. It's just the way it feels when I look at him. He looks to me as somebody I wouldn't want to be around, and usually that means there's some sort of um, let me rephrase that. Not just not be around, but like not even want to be in the same room with, right? Like there's something very wrong with him. I'm not sure what it is exactly. I have ideas, the 3 of Cups, but he's got some support here. The 10 of Cups, families, reunions, and celebrations, and this comes up a lot with the Epstein documents because of the kids in the card. There's only 2 cards that have kids and guardrails. He's promised to keep him safe. I don't know why. The magician, he could do this whenever he wanted, but he's choosing not to. There's a lot of fighting. He's really starting to make his caucus mad. Yeah, I mean, the felon and the environment around, of course, it's for the felon. I think they have something on him, the Knight of Pentacles. Um, and I don't think it's just grinder conversations. I think it's worse. Just do. I don't really want to elaborate on that, but I think it's way worse. Um, the 9 of Pentacles. There's stuff in there that the Democrats would very easily be able to use. And we get the 8 of Swords. He's really trapped. I don't think he's got a choice here because I think he's being threatened. So, he's got some support. There's people fighting with him, and I don't think he really has much of a choice. I think there's the potential for something to come out about him, and that's why he's willing to put up with this fight and keep the felon protected. But ultimately, the felon is in the Epstein documents, and there's enough stuff in there for Democrats to use to make a lot of Republicans look bad for defending him. So I think this is more nefarious. Oh, it'll be the end of them. If the Epstein documents come out, I think it's the end of Mike Johnson's because of whatever they're going to put out on him, and literally the end of the felon, like not figuratively, but literally death. And lots of prosecutions coming out very powerful people, justice being served around the world, not just here in the US. So, there's a reason why Johnson isn't letting this come up. That's that's for sure. Okay, so the felon did not win the Nobel Peace Prize like we thought. Um, Although I have to admit that wasn't a huge insight. That was just uh, thinking. I liked what the Nobel Committee said about only giving the award to people with integrity um, and courage. Okay, so can we expect some blowback from him not winning the Nobel Peace Prize? And then we'll take a look at his trip to the West. Um, will there be blowback? I mean, was the announcement today about the China tariffs really about the Nobel Peace Prize? You might say, well, there's no connection between China and the Nobel Peace Prize and the felon. And it's like, well, does there need to be? I mean, he's not acting sanely to begin with. So why would his decisions need to be based in reality? Um, just another lashing out things. Will there be blowback here? Yeah, I'm not winning. I think the politicians in Norway certainly are concerned about it. According to Politico, I believe is where I read that article. Um, Pentacles here. This is the before tarot. So the snake is handing the pentacle to the queen. She hasn't accepted it yet. Think about that for just a second. And, he's wallowing in self-pity, the Four of Cups. Yeah, he's on some type of crusade here at the Knight of Wands. And the Page of Wands, trying to send these fiery messages. I don't think they're landing the way that he thinks. At the center of the reading is the Knight of Cups emotional messages. Republicans arguing that he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize is beyond laughable. He has created more global disturbances than he has any sort of peace. I, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve credit for signing the ceasefire with Israel, but I don't think he probably does. To me I want to take some time to really meditate on it, but it doesn't feel like it's going to last. Um, I don't trust Netanyahu, and I certainly don't trust the phone. The Queen of Wands, lots of fire, lots of anger here. And the King of Swords, expect him to act the way he always does, which will be retribution. Lots of burdens in the environment around here. And then the Queen of Cups, empathy. So that's three queens, by the way, which I think is significant. His lack of ability to look inward is why we should expect retribution. So he didn't get what he was hoping for, and therefore he's trying to send a message to the world that he's been mistreated, looking for sympathy, which is astounding. Um, it's totally his MO, right? It just is. So expect messages to be quite fiery at times, expect chaos. He's currently sulking. He's ready to throw some fire out. He's just trying to figure out how to do it. We've got the Page of Wands, the Queen of Wands, and then we have burdens with the Ten of Wands. That's a lot of Wands energy here. and the environment around. So I think he's quite angry. Uh, how's he going to handle it? Tariffs, overseas money, the two pentacles, traveling. I don't think it works, and I don't think it works because this happens. I could be wrong, but I really do think this happens soon. Death, and then we get the Tower card, and who's it for? It's for the felon, the King of Pentacles. I don't know. I mean, the cards are pretty clear that that's what's going on there. So, um, I think he's going to be traveling to the Middle East against medical advice. We shall see. How's his trip to the Middle East going to go? The candle just went out, which is my fault for not putting in a new candle, but usually wasn't expecting it to go out. Usually they last quite a while. So the candle going out when he goes to the Middle East to sign. We need to know about his trip to the Middle East. Do we need to know about his trip to the Middle East? Do we need to know about his trip to the Middle East? There's some protection there, the Star card. Protection for the country. There's more to it than seems the eye, the Hierophant here. It could be the church, the Pope, the courts, but it feels different than that. The Wheel of Fortune, like he really is taking a gamble here. I don't think he's supposed to be traveling. These are all major arcanas, by the way. Uh, the Queen of Cups, empathy. Wow. The Fool at the center, new beginnings. Hanging from the edge here. Now, I mean, no, that's not exactly what the Fool means, but it's what I'm drawn to. You know, the Ten of Pentacles, the end of a cycle, and also the card for inheritance. I mean, the World card, at the end of a cycle, perhaps a life cycle. This is a big trip. I mean, the Ten of Swords and the environment around. Complete and utter downfall. We've got the death representation here as well. Uh, being carried home because he won't be at home, so to speak. And something that changes things, crossroads. I think there's protection for us. I feel like this is a new beginning and it creates a crossroads moment. It's like his life cycle ends and we get a new beginning. And because he decided to take this gamble, I think he was told not to. Tens are endings of things, right? And the Wheel of Fortune's also a 10. And then we have, the inheritance card, which is a 10, and the cycle of complete and utter downfall, the 10 of Pentacles. We have the Hierophant, which could represent really big change on like a spiritual level, which I think his death would. And we have the Queen of Cups, some empathy and emotions here. Not good cards. And the Five of Cups being wounded in battle. Um, seeds being planted, the truth being there, the King of Swords, and it's like inevitable, the Three of Wands, and then messages coming forward, the Knight of Pentacles. It wouldn't surprise me if this is the last trip it takes, but uh, timing is so hard to predict. I mean, we all see him going downhill, so it's really just a question of when. It's not a question of if. So, all right, I appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you, and I'll be back with another videos.